Facebook. So come on over to Zoom, hang out with us there. It's now being recorded. And let's do an okay. Okay. It's like we're all here, the important 12 or 15 of us. We can start. Let's talk about dragons. Let's pray. Thank you. We have another privilege to hang out together. We thank you for this cool library of text that you've given us as we try to find some through line and to understand what you're doing in ancient Israel and in the world and in our day right now. So help us to see these cool texts, help them to connect in some ways maybe we haven't seen before, and to see the way your literary the inspiration, what you've done with these people who are writing this, what it's doing for us. That's what we want to see. We want to see Jesus. So show that to us too. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, so let's do the review. Okay, so this is my peace sign, which means you should have this up on it. Right, 2, 3, go. Okay, so part number 1, part number 2, part number 3. We talked about 3 things last week. We talked about Behemoth, we talked about Leviathan, and we talked about Rahab. This is not Rahab, not the harlot, not the prostitute that you know from the Joshua story. This is Rahab. This is the Egypt dragon. So this is a symbol for, a metaphor for chaos and for, what's the only other word? Disorder, for something coming in and trying to destroy God's people. Okay, which is going to be a theme throughout the whole thing. Are you letting in our other person there, Travis? Oh, he's looking at something else. Travis! When it comes up, it comes across my screen, and so they're trying to get in. All right, I'll let her in. Sorry.
I already pushed the button. I pushed the button. I can't make their computer join.
Okay. All right, so these are these 3 monsters that we started off with last week. And one is kind of this land beast, which, Behemoth is just a wild ox, maybe. It's something big, but it's not like it's something. It just means beasts, right? That's how we generally translate it. We don't know what it is. We don't really need to care so much because it's not probably a real thing. It's probably a metaphor for something that's big and destructive, and that God is going to control. Same with Leviathan. We're going to find a lot more about Leviathan today. If you've never heard of this person, this thing, this creature, this dragon, we're going to find out. It's got 7 heads. It's a monster. It shows up in Revelation 12, even if Rob doesn't think it does. By the way, Rob Dalrymple, Dr. Rob Dalrymple is on today to make sure that I don't butcher Revelation. He's an apocalyptic scholar, so I have to do my best to stay on focus here. And Rahab is this Egypt creature. So Egypt is just called this monster, this dragon, and God, as you know, rips open the Red Sea and lets Egypt come through. So it's kind of like these 2 dragons on either side of Israel, and Israel goes through one because it gets ripped open, and then God uses that sea, Amsuf, to destroy the dragon that comes through it. So the dragon goes through the dragon, and the dragon swallows it up and destroys it. So chaos destroys chaos. That's the kind of cool story the Exodus story is. Okay, we'll do Exodus maybe one day again, but right now we're not doing that. That's all review from last time. Okay, then we went into Mark a little bit, and we just said, remember how Mark is doing. I just used Mark as an example because I did it on a podcast actually for Rob years ago. I don't remember how long ago. So Mark is just this good example. It shows up in Matthew. It shows up in lots of the New Testament. But Mark is trying to show Jesus as the king, right? As the Son of God. That's how he's going to open his book up. We're going to come up to that in Mark chapter 8. There's going to be some notice of who he is. But throughout this, he's trying to show that Jesus is this representative of Israel. So Jesus is Israel, the new Israel. So he'll have 12 disciples, 12 tribes. He's going to do crazy things like, casting out lepers and, casting out demons and healing lepers and doing all that kind of stuff, and doing some cool things with nature That's what's most important to us. It's the cool thing with nature, but we're going to get back to that. So that's just kind of an intro that he represents Israel. He's king and he's son of God. Then we jump to Rosh Shamra. I said, so we're going all the way back in time to Rosh Shamra. Rosh Shamra is what it's called now. That's a tell. Remember, that's where cities are destroyed, and now there's a mound. So it's just a mound, and they do archaeological digs on it. This Rosh Shamra used to be called Ugarit. And Ugarit, they found a whole lot of awesome text, like a library in Ugarit in the language of Ugaritic. And I showed you the cuneiform and how that worked last time. We're not going to get into that. You got to go back and find all that stuff. But in Ugarit, we find all these cool epic poems about the gods, about El, about Mot, about Yam, about Baal, like these incredible stories that totally made everything come alive in the mythology of that time, which includes our Bible. So a lot of our books would come from similar times, although the books of the Bible are later. That is, they're closer to our time than they are to ancient time, right? So some of these stories are much older than the Bible, but still, they at least come from thousands of years ago. And so we're trying, that they help us understand all this stuff. So in this, we talk about all these gods, El, Mot, Yam, Baal, sons of El, all that stuff. And the question that would naturally come up, okay, as part of this review would be something like, wait a minute, there are no other gods. The Bible's monotheistic, right? One God, monotheism. We all know that's one of the core principles, monotheism. But Lori's shaking her head because she knows, I mean, maybe you could call it monotheism if you redefine monotheism in a certain way to fit what the Bible actually says, which is fine, you can do that. But it's probably more henotheism and monotheism. Sorry, and monolatry. Okay, so we're just gonna equate these two words, henotheism and monolatry. You've never heard of them probably, and you don't have to because this is just weird scholar nerd language. But all it means is, yeah, of course there are other gods, but the God that they worshipped is Yahweh, right? That's the one that they gave prevalence to. Okay. Now, whether you think that he's the one who is worshipped for a particular time and in a particular way, like we centralize him because it's the springtime and stuff like that, and then he's going to go down. That's the difference between monolatry and henotheism. That doesn't matter. The point is, there's lots of gods, and only one is the one that we're supposed to care about. We're supposed to worship. That's the way they probably would have thought. Now, when I say they probably would have thought that way, that doesn't mean very many of them actually did that. Okay? They probably worshipped all kinds of other gods. Right? That's part of the problem, isn't it? In the Old Testament, that's why God keeps coming to them and calling them harlots. Okay, like this one, not this one, but the other one, right? Call her prostitutes. Like they keep going after other gods. They keep whoring after other lovers. God says, I'm the husband. They say, yeah, we like Egypt better. He's cuter. Okay, so they go that direction. They cheat on God. He gets ticked off, right? He destroys people. Hence this whole thing that we've been doing about monsters. Okay, and God being kind of monstrous sometimes himself. Okay, so these are the gods. This is henotheism and monolatry. In this group of gods that we have here, these are some of them, Mot, Yam, and Baal. We have ones called chthonic deities. I don't know if that's even chthonic. Again, this is one of those cool party words. If you are an introvert and you go to a party, just start using these words like chthonic, henotheism, monolatry. People will just flock to you. They'll want to be around you. That's the cool people do. All right. So these are those words, chthonic deities. It just means death. Some people say chthonian as an adjective or chthonic, death deities. Okay. These gods that represent death. Sha'al, Leviathan, Yam, Mot is the most clear one. His name actually means death, right? So it's Mot or Mavet. Okay, so this Mavet, or so if it's this with an A, Mavet. Whoops, no, that's not right at all. Mavet, or if it's with it's like this, it would be Mot. So this letter becomes either a noun or a consonant or a vowel, depending on how it's spoken.
Can you
Where it
clarify
comes in the text.
monolatry and henotheism is there's more than one God, but we're worshiping the one. But you said somewhere along the line that it could interchange, like the
Yeah.
Yahweh. Which one is that? Is that both henotheism and monolatry?
Because I didn't look at all this stuff, I can't really remember. One is a subset of the other. I think henotheism is the bigger thing, and monolatry is the subset. So that is it. In monolatry, it can change.
Okay.
Like,
sorry, dude.
I'm not 100% sure on that. You guys can have fun looking that up. If you just Google it, you probably are not going to find an easy answer to that question. You're going to need to look into scholarly literature.
No, I didn't even know that. I thought, thank you for that. Yep. Thank you, sir.
But yeah, I mean, I know you're all Googling it right now. You're not going to listen to the next 3 minutes. But basically what you're going to find on normal internet sites is that they look pretty much the same. If they try and differentiate it, you probably won't be able to follow it real well. Or maybe you'll find that one site and it'll be out there. But so this is when you start getting into the depth, into the weeds and stuff, Wikipedia is not going to do it for you. Okay, so some of the stuff that I'm telling you, if you just look it up on Wikipedia, you'll be like, yeah, this is exactly what Jace already said. And sometimes you'll be like, wait a minute, because there's controversy, right? Scholarly debate as to how we do it and terminological changes. Like as time goes by, people change the terms. They mean different things, and people give voice to them in different ways. Okay, so chthonic deities. This is all still review from last week, but we didn't get through with what I wanted to, and I need you to see this whole long line. That's what's important here. So this is what we call the chaos Kampf. Okay, this is just a German word. So this is wars that are between chaos and order. Okay, so it's like a motif, chaos motif. All right, so this is what they're dealing with. So anytime that Yam fights against Baal, this is chaos Kampf. Okay, pretty simple. That's what's going on there. So, and then we talked about all of the gods or demons. This is basically a quick review of everything we've done for the last 20 weeks or however long we've been doing this, right? We met Rabisu, the crouching one from Genesis. We met Ketev and Dever, and we met, let's see here, Hebyon and Seraphim and Cherubim, and we're meeting giants next week. Oh my gosh, giants is so much. We'll have so much fun with giants, but probably only 1 week. Anyway, you remember all these different things that we talked about over the last however many months we've been doing this. Okay, so all of these are either demons or gods. Demons is just a demoted god, and I don't mean like it was actually demoted, but it's just like an underling god. Okay, depending on the time when we're talking about it. That's how we use the terminology. Okay, so like today we talk about the sons of God from Genesis 6. Remember, the sons of God intermarried or took women. It's not really intermarried so much as took women, and then they create like this group of demigods. All right, you might want to call them demons. Okay? I don't care what you call them. You know what they are, right? They're the children of gods and mankind, whatever that is. Okay, that terminology. And it's going to change as time goes by. When you change from Hebrew to Greek, it's going to change. But also just the ideas evolve. If we've seen nothing else throughout this whole series, it's that ideas about gods and monsters evolve. Satan, for instance, right? There is no Satan really in the Old Testament, but there is for sure when we move into this New Testament period. There's an evolution going on. In fact, we're going to see that when we deal with Revelation 12 very quickly today, I hope, assuming we get to it. All right, so these gods get into wars with each other. There's a great war I told you about between Baal and Mot, and there's questions in that regarding whether Baal and Mot are, Baal's the good god in the Canaanite world. He's our bad god. We don't like him in the Bible because he battles against Yahweh. But in their world, in the ancient Near East, he's a good god, and Mot, death, is the bad god. And these myths are always, whether true or false, we don't know that for sure, but myths, the whole idea of myths is that they perpetuate something that is bigger than themselves, right? They're trying to give you an idea of something beyond themselves. Some of those may be historical. My guess is Baal and Moat are not. Okay, you're going to have to make your decisions on that as to whether they're actually creatures in the world or whether they're creatures or not, whether they're forever things. I think they're just symbols of things, right? Whether that's fertility, that is Baal wins when it's springtime and Moat wins when it's fall or winter. Okay, so the crop cycles, when the crop cycles die, Moat takes the throne, right? And then when life comes up again, Baal, the fertility god, takes the throne, right? It just keeps going. It's a seasonal thing. Or whether this is temple building, that is creation myths. So this is the beginning of a new world that he's creating. Okay, so Baal is going to conquer death and start over with something. Okay, and so we see these kinds of stories in like Genesis 1, Genesis 3, maybe even Genesis 6 with the flood story is a conquering and a recreation story. So, and in the midst of all of this are dragons. Okay, dragons are Leviathan, Rahab, Yam, okay, and others. Maybe the abyss. Maybe the pit. No, that's the abyss. Well, probably sometimes Nahar, which is a river god. But Nahar is usually not quite as bad, not usually as chaotic. Anyway, these are all symbolized as dragons. So if you're reading in the book of Job or Isaiah and you come across this creature and you try to argue that it's a crocodile or a hippo, okay, some people say that one is, you're going to have some trouble. That's all from last week. We could not read that and say this is legitimately a hippopotamus. Okay? In fact, if you're trying to compare it to any known animal, you're probably going to fail. So if you're an Answers in Genesis person, you're going to immediately think, Ken Ham, what would he say about this? Well, then it must be, if it's not one of those, which he thinks it is, it's not one of those, then it's a creature that's gone extinct by now. And we just don't know what it is. Maybe a dinosaur. Okay, because dinosaurs and mankind lived at the same time, apparently. If you go to the Ark Encounter, you will see that that's one of the arguments out there. Okay, and I don't need to fight with him. I'm not an anthropologist, a paleontologist. I don't know anything about all that stuff. But the Bible doesn't demand that idea. Okay, so whether that's true or not, ask somebody who's really good at science.
Very silly.
Okay. Perhaps. I would tend to agree with you, but I'm only agreeing with you because of the consensus view in science, right? So generally, I just go ahead and take the consensus. It's safer in areas that I don't know anything about. So, but as a Bible scholar, I want to say this, right? You don't need this to be a literal thing. Okay? You don't need there to be a dinosaur, a hippopotamus, a crocodile in order for it to tell the story that it's trying to tell. It's okay if it's a mythological dragon that never existed and no one ever believed it existed. It's okay. It doesn't mean it is that way, but it's okay. Because God can tell stories however he wants to using all their cool little stuff, right? All the ideas that they have in their mind. I mean, even right now, when I'm talking about a dragon to you, you all are picturing something. You know what a dragon is in your mind. You've never seen one, and I'm guessing at least 90% of you don't believe they ever existed. Right? But I could still use it in a story. And you'd be like, okay, I'm with you. Tell me the story. Good. I got it. Okay? If I told you a story about eagles coming and rescuing a wizard off of a tall, towery thing, right? And taking him somewhere, you'd be like, all right, rescue the wizard. I'm in. Right? And you don't need me to tell you that's Lord of the Rings story, right? Or eagles coming and rescuing people in a book called The Revelation, right? Like you can follow the story. You can be like a child and just enjoy the story. Okay, that's all up to last week. Okay. Now, finally, we get to Psalm 18, which we did start on last week. And I want to quickly glance through it. So you definitely want to turn to Psalm 18 because this story helps the New Testament come alive. I think it helps the Old Testament come alive, but it's pretty cool. So remember, David he's falling into death. The cords of death have entangled him. This is Psalm, I don't know what I said, but Psalm 18. Did I say 78? I've been working on Psalm 78. So, okay, Psalm 18. So the cords of death have come up. They've entangled him. Verse 4, the torrents of destruction, Abaddon. Remember, we talked about Abaddon. He's one of those other cool gods. The cords of the grave, that's Sheol, coiled around me. The snares of death, that's Mot, confronted me. The chaos monster, right? The dragon is coming up. The tentacles of the squid, the giant squid from 20,000 Leagues, right? The jellyfish from the sphere, whatever movie you need to make this work in your mind. The monster, Jaws, right? It's coming up. Okay, it's going to pull him down. And remember Mot. Mot has an appetite. He's got a jaw, a maw that opens up and swallows up worlds, right? It's constantly doing that. That's just what he does. So Jaws is probably a great, okay, you can see him coming, and you see the fin coming, and you can hear the music. That's why I'm never afraid when I go. I've never heard the music. If I hear the music, I'm out. But I'm not afraid of the sea ever. So you hear the music. In my distress, this is verse 6. I called to the Lord. I cried to my God for help. From his temple, he heard my voice. My cry came before him into his ears. We talked about this, that Yahweh hears from his temple. Usually, gods don't have temples yet. It's once they defeat the bad guy, then they get their temples. But God in the story seems to already have the temple. This is Yahweh. If people know these myths, they might notice these little things. So it makes the psalm kind of like, oh, that's cool. I don't know if that was intentional, but it could be. And it definitely preaches well, tells that little extra story. He's victorious even before he fights the battle. Verse 7, the earth trembled and quaked, the foundations of the mountain shook. They trembled because he was angry. Smoke rose from his nostrils. Are you getting the picture here? Right? Like, this is a fire-breathing dragon. God's coming. He's on warpath. And when he comes, everything else around him is shaking, convulsing, consuming fires coming from his mouth, burning coals blazed out of it. I'm in verse 9. He parted the heavens and came down. Dark clouds were on his feet. He mounted the cherubim, so it gets on the cherubim. Remember, they're the things that take him places. They're his chariot, soared on the wings of the wind. Darkness is his covering, canopy around him, dark rain clouds of the sky. We talked about "O Worship the King," that great song. Out of the brightness of his presence, clouds advanced, hailstones and bolts of lightning. And by the way, that word hailstone is barad. Remember, we met that particular little god or demon thing in our last section too, barad. Bolts of lightning. The Lord thundered from heaven. The voice of the Most High resounded. He shot his arrows and scattered the enemy with great bolts of lightning. He routed them. The valleys of the sea, Yam, were exposed. And the foundations of the earth lay bare at your rebuke, Lord, at the blast of breath from your nostrils. He reached down from on high and took hold of me and drew me out of deep waters. So these last few verses here, as he's routing the enemy, as he is making war against Leviathan or against Yam, right? These are just the same things, Yam and Leviathan. They're just chaos, dragon, monster things. But they're also the sea. And so the sea is convulsing. The sea is running away from him. So this is either, okay, you gotta see this. This is either the, well, you tell me, what story is this grabbing hold of to make his point? I mean, obviously he's trying to rescue David, but he's using a story or two here to make this argument. Do you recognize this when God comes against the sea? When might this happen?
Parting of the Red Sea, and then that's the one I can think of.
Okay.
And I can think of the New Testament when Jesus quiets.
No New Testament stuff. No cheating. No cheating. No New Testament stuff.
Rob,
this is Psalm 18. There's no New Testament.
I know. No.
Yeah. No going back. No trying to mess up the end of this. All right.
What about Genesis 1, like when, I mean, creation, right? Like, because he makes the sea, he separates the sea and the land and all that, and
Yeah.
over the
Okay.
waters and all that stuff.
So now, which story is it? All right, so here's the cool thing about the way scripture works, or at least I think it works, right? They're constantly grabbing hold of earlier stories and pulling them into the present. Of course, we don't know which one's earlier, whether Genesis 1 is earlier or the Exodus story is earlier, which one came up in their imagination first. They're written down probably during similar periods, well, within a century anyway, of each other, probably in the 9th and 8th century. Okay, so that's after the monarchy or around the time of the monarchy. Okay, but these are kind of the same story. And that's what we've got to constantly remember. Scripture is telling this forward story of creation, recreation, creation, recreation, recreation. It's constantly recreating itself. And this is that great story. So it starts up with creation, it goes down, then it comes back up, down, all the way through. And with each one, God is going to start over again with a new person, and he's going to make a new covenant with each one of them. Okay, so we have new covenants throughout. That is new relationships, new agreements that he's going to make with mankind. Okay, so creation is this very beginning story where God comes, Genesis 1, and rips open the sea, right? It says on day, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 2 and 3, right? On day 2 and 3, he rips open the sea this way. Okay, that is, there's nothing but chaos waters, verses 1 and 2. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Or when in the beginning, when God was creating the heavens and the earth. It's probably a better way of saying it. And the earth was tohu vabohu, was without form and void. And darkness, hoshek, was on the face of the earth, eretz, okay, or face of the deep. Eretz was in verse 1, on the face of the deep. So the abyss, okay, or tehom, or Tiamat, okay, which is an ancient creature, a dragon. It's a chaos creature. Okay, so when that was happening, then on day 1, of course, he let there be light. Day 2, we probably need to do it all, right? So here is mankind. Okay, he's created on day what? Day 6. Okay, so right now he can't live. The goal is for him to be able to live, right? Day 6. That's the goal. So here he is. If we ever do Genesis, we'll talk about this more. But here he is. But right now, the earth is without form and void, and darkness is over the face of the deep. So now what God's going to do is he's going to say, let there be light. Right? Now, I don't know how to make that light, but you get the idea, right? The darkness goes away. And then he's going to separate. He's going to separate by a firmament. He's going to create, basically, he's going to create something in the sky. A rakia. Let's do blue, because blue makes sense. And he's going to separate the waters up here from the waters down here. Okay, so now mankind can live just fine, except for, okay, right, he's here. He's going down, he's going to die. Okay, so he can breathe for a moment, but he's got nothing to stand on. So, of course, God does this. Right, so now we've got land for him, and the water is only over here. Okay, that's what's going on. And then he's going to, of course, create other things for each one of these places. Something's going to live here, something's going to live here, something's going to live here, something's going to live on here, stars and sun, etc. But this is the goal. Okay, and in order to do that, he has to rip open the sea. So he rips it open, puts a rakia, a firmament there to block out the waters up here. Remember, this is mythology. This is the way that they're thinking about the world, right? And then he rips it open this way, which is exactly what he's going to do in the Red Sea crossing, right? He's going to rip open the sea. And we have cool myths in the Old Testament, not in the Old Testament, sorry, in the ancient Near East. We have myths about Leviathan or about Yam being split open by the conquering god. Okay, so that like Marduk and Tiamat. Tiamat is going to, remember, right here. Tiamat is going to be attacked by Marduk. Marduk is going to come across the sea, flying on the wings of the chariots, the wind, and coming across with the cherubim, and is going to come across and is going to do battle with Tiamat, and then is going to slay the dragon creature. Is going to fillet her through the stomach, and he's going to place half of it in the heavens and half of it on the earth, and the gods will live up here, and mankind will live down here. It's a creation myth. Okay, so it's exactly what's happening in the Exodus story. It's a recreation myth. They're going through, they're going to get through, and then Israel is going to be created again. God's saying, I'm starting over with you.
Does this happen in baptism too? For
What?
us? I'm picturing baptism like your new creation, like this whole. Like, yeah, like this.
You're picturing it because Paul's picturing it, right? He does the same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Baptism is a repurposing of a mikvah, which is a cleansing bath.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it is about cleansing, no question. But we are going to see, I mean, even Paul is going to call it not just a new creature. I know that's what we like to say, but it's actually a new creation, right? So he's going to argue for a new creation that's going to come through the baptism, through the baptismal waters. Okay, so these are all these recreation stories throughout. Okay, and Leviathan has to be split. The sea has to be conquered. Chaos has to be destroyed so order can reign. Okay, that's what the Genesis story is. That's why Genesis 1 is all about not creating things so much as moving things around, shifting things, putting the boxes, as we've said in our Genesis class, putting the boxes away in your house, not building your house. Your house is built, but you can't live in it, right? Poor guy here can't live in it until the boxes are put away. So you unpack the bed and the linens and put a pillow on there. Now you're comfortable. You got a TV up, right? That's what's going on in the creation story. That chaos is being conquered. Okay, all that from Yahweh's coming, shooting his arrows, routing them. The valleys of the sea were exposed, right? The foundations of the earth laid bare at your rebuke. Okay, rebuke is this word, ga'ar. We talked about it, I think, because I said talk like a pirate, and you're going to get this one, ga'ar. I don't think any pirates actually spoke like that, just FYI. But ga'ar here, except for Long John Silver. He created the whole myth of pirates. But so a blast of breath from your nostrils. He reached down from on high and took hold of me and drew me out of deep water. So this is the fight scene. Okay, this is God coming against Tiamat, Yam, Leviathan, the dragon. You know, from Job, he hooks the dragon in his with his going fishing. Who can do that? Only Yahweh can do that. That's from the book of Job. So here is, I mean, if we were doing this, we were dramatizing it. You'd hear the Jaws music at this point, right? As you know, dun, dun, and we cry out, help, and Yahweh, oh, I hear my bird. Okay, I'm coming. Right, comes over, gets on it, flies over, throwing the lightning. Right, like Zeus, think that way. Right, blast of breath. He rebukes the sea. It goes back. Right? He's destroying. This is the chaos conf story.
What about the well in Jonah? I'm just adding to what you're doing.
I don't know about the well in Jonah. Tell me about that.
The sea for sure. No, I'm just asking. I'm just wondering if it's depicted as some kind of sea monster or anything.
Oh, the whale. I thought you said the well. Yes.
No, the whale. Yeah.
So this is one of the swimming things from Genesis day 4. Wait, day 4? No, day 5. Yeah, and it's the same word. It's sea monsters. Yep. So a sea monster comes up, saves him, and puts him out on the shore. So there's probably some interesting things going on with that Jonah story. Although remember this, everyone, Jonah's not about a whale. It's about justice for that great city, right? That's what the story's about. Do not make it a miracle story about a whale or you've completely destroyed the point of the story. Okay, that's just an extra little fun part of it. Okay, so now I promised you this, that we would look at a few verses. So let's look at these verses because now we're already halfway over and I haven't even started on the verses. So I'm just going to give you a bunch of them and you can look at them if you want to. Somebody hopefully will read them. There's a huge storm going on here right now. If this goes out, talk amongst yourselves. I don't know what to do, but it wasn't purposeful. Okay, Nahum 1:4. Nahum 1:4. Anyone have that? And someone else look up just for fun so we can get it quickly. Psalm 74, 12 through 15. All right, who's got Nahum 1:4 or will get it in a minute? Just let me know that you're going to look it up. Nahum 1:4. Nobody wants Nahum because we have no idea where Nahum is. Is that one of the books of the Bible? Suzanne's got it.
Okay.
Who's got Psalm 74? Anybody want to take that? You don't have to have it right now. Just tell me you're going to take it. So Psalm 74, Lori. Okay. Isaiah 27:1. Somebody read that one for me. Who's got Isaiah 27? I brought a Bible with me. I'm willing to read for 5 seconds. Okay. Pop, you got that one. Psalm 104, 2 through 8. Slightly longer text. Who's got Psalm 104? Oh man, asked to participate. All right, Brad, you got it. And in fact, I'll give you another passage in Psalm 104 when we get there. How about Proverbs 8:29? Who wants that one?
I'll do it.
All right, Jay. And we'll just stop there because that's the end of my page. But there's some more, which I'll give you afterwards. Like 4 more, all in the book of Job, I think. All right, let's start in Nahum 1:4.
Okay, at his command, the oceans dry up and the rivers disappear. The lush pastures of Bashan and Carmel fade, and the green forests of Lebanon wither.
All right, so the very first part of that is at his command, the oceans, what?
Dry up.
Dry up. All right, so that word command, I don't know if anybody else is looking at these with her. Does anyone have a different translation?
Yeah, you can jump in if you got any questions for Calvin. I got one more, and then you guys can take it away.
Well, I can't tell if somebody's talking to me.
Well, you got my.
It was Suzanne, something in the background, I think. All right, no? All right, I don't. Okay.
Chase,
So,
this is Nahum 1:4.
yeah,
I have he rebukes the sea.
yeah. Yep. So that's that same word that we just saw. Ga'ar. Okay, he rebukes the sea and it dries up. He makes all the rivers, that's that word nahar that we mentioned before, run dry. Okay, and so I'm not going to take you here, but Psalm 29 is this story about God putting his throne on the sea. And a lot of people, a lot of scholars think that Psalm 29 used to be a Canaanite psalm, and it was changed. Kind of like Martin Luther changed the drinking songs and made them like a mighty fortress, right? He grabbed hold of a secular thing and turned it into something Christian. So this was a Canaanite psalm about Apsu, the great god who put his throne on Ea. Or sorry, the other way around. Ea put his throne on Apsu, the sea, in that, what's that story? Anu Malish, in Anu Malish. Okay, so it was a Canaanite psalm, and they think that because of the way the cadence of the psalm runs, it wouldn't fit with the epithets, with the names that we have for Yahweh. So we think that it has to do with another god, stuff like that. Go ahead, Josh, what were you going to say?
Sorry, I was just telling my wife she has a stalker, which is her cat. I'm
Okay. All right, so Nahum 1:4, we already have a rebuking of oceans, okay? And not the song Oceans. We like that song, but these particular oceans are being rebuked. All right, what about, well, here's what Psalm 29 says, which I don't think I gave to you, but I just explained it. The voice of the Lord is over the waters. The God of glory thunders. The Lord thunders over the mighty waters. The Lord sits enthroned over the flood. The Lord is enthroned as king forever. Okay, how many times you heard the word Lord, right? It has a certain amount of consonants, syllables, and so that's why they think that it throws off the balance, the cadence of the song. That's one of the reasons. All right, now, Psalm 74, 12 through 15. Remember who our gods are, right? Or our monsters are. Leviathan. All right. Who's got Psalm
Okay.
74?
I've got it.
Okay.
Yet God my King is from of old, working salvation in the earth. You divided the sea by your might. You broke the heads of the dragons in the waters. You crushed the heads of Leviathan. You gave him as food for the creatures of the wilderness. You cut openings for springs and torrents. You dried up ever-flowing streams.
All right. So in case you're like, yeah, I don't think that Leviathan shows up. I think you're making all this stuff up, Jace. Here it is, clear as can be, Leviathan. And you broke the heads, plural, of the monster in the waters. Or yours said the dragon. The heads of the dragon. Right? That's cool. Okay. So not one head, lots of heads. And we're going to find out. Well, we're not going to find out. I'll just tell you. There are 7 heads on this monster. Okay. Because that's what the mythology of that time demanded. Okay. There were 7. So it only makes sense that this one has it. So it doesn't say 7 heads, but it does say heads, not head. So scholars are pretty sure it's talking about that same one that everybody would have recognized, 7-headed dragon. All right, speaking of Leviathan, what about Isaiah 27:1?
I got it.
Okay.
In that day, the Lord will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, with his fierce and great and mighty sword, even Leviathan, the twisted serpent, and he will kill the dragon who lives in the sea.
Oh, that's cool. Is that New Revised Standard Version?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. I like the way that said that. All right. So with his sword, he's going to kill Leviathan, the gliding serpent, the slithering, the coiling. You had a whole bunch of different ways that it said it in there. He will slay the dragon of the sea, or the monster of the sea, is what mine says. Okay, hence our whole series being called Monsters. Okay, so this is Leviathan has killed this gliding serpent. So there are serpents out there that are not Genesis 3 serpents. Okay, there's nothing in Genesis 3. This is a different serpent here. Okay, Psalm 104, 2-8.
He wraps himself in light as with a garment. He stretches out the heavens like a tent and lays the beams of his upper chambers on their waters. He makes the clouds his chariot and rides on the wings of the wind. He makes winds his messengers, flames of fire his servants. He set the earth on its foundations. It can never be moved. You covered it with the deep as with a garment. The waters stood above the mountains. But at your rebuke, the waters fled. At the sound of your thunder, they took to flight. They flowed over the mountains. They went down into the valleys to the place you assigned for them.
All right, that's awesome. Okay, so he's doing this stuff with creation, right? Wrapping himself as light, stretching out the heavens like a tent, the beams of his upper chamber. So he's making a house, right? Creation house, and he's putting them in the water. Okay, his upper chambers are in the water. So basically, he's building his house on the sea because, well, he's got it, right? And so he's kicking some serious behind. Okay, these are like insults. These are like polemical, like jabs into the dragon. He makes the winds his messengers. Oh, the clouds his chariot, rides the wings of the wind, winds his messengers. We've heard this whenever Yahweh's going to attack. That's what he does. He jumps on the wind. He jumps on the cherubim. Sets the earth on its foundations. It can never be moved. You covered it with the deep. Okay, so the deep is that word, abyss, tahom, right? Again, Tiamat, you covered it with that. Okay, as with a garment. The water stood above the mountains, but at your rebuke, gar, blast of breath, right? They disappear. They flee. The sound of your thunders, they take to flight. They float over the mountains, down to the valleys, the place you assign. So they're running. They're going where they're supposed to go now. Finally, they had covered everything up. Okay, maybe the flood story, maybe the creation story. Again, same story. Chaos is being destroyed. And order is reigning now. Things are where they're supposed to be. All right, Brad, if you're still in Psalm 104, will you grab 24 and 20 through 26 too? Did Did you get me, Brad? Did you hear me? Oh, you're muted there. You're still muted. There you go.
In this same verse 24 is in this same chapter.
Yeah, 104, 24 through 26.
How many are your works, O Lord? In wisdom you made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. There is the sea, vast and spacious, teeming with creatures beyond number, living things both large and small. There the ships go to and fro, and the Leviathan, which you formed to frolic there.
All right, so the Leviathan is there. It's in the sea, and it's frolicking. It's playful. This is a Loch Ness monster. I don't know what this is. Like, it's a porpoise. It's having some fun. This is in the same thing. After he's defeated everything, Leviathan is still there, but now it's just like a playful rubber ducky and hanging out. Nothing major anymore. All right, Proverbs 8:29, I think was the last one I gave.
I've got that. When he assigned the sea its limit, so that the waters might not transgress his command, when he marked out the foundations of the earth.
All right, so he's given the sea, Yam, its boundary, right? And you know what the Yam's boundary is, right? You go there on a regular basis whenever you have a vacation, right? You go to the shoreline, you go to the beach, and you hang out there. And you don't go too far in because Yam is dangerous, right? Rip currents, right? I mean, the Cosby Kid just this week, right? I mean, this happens. This is horrifying. And I don't know how many times it's probably happened to most of you, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. And then somehow you make it. You don't know how, because this is Yam grabbing hold. This is the coils of death pulling you down. But then God hears your cry somehow and rescues you from that kind of thing. All right. So, but he says, this is as far as you can go. But sometimes Leviathan, sometimes Yam transgresses its boundaries. Says, heck with you, God. I'm going to do whatever I want. And what does it do? Tsunami. Right? Takes over, grabs hold of people who are living a half a mile in inland, right? Like, that's some crazy power. Okay, mountains over beach. That's why you go to the mountains. Good call. All right, Job chapter 38. We'll just read like 3 from Job here. Job 38. If anybody wants that, verses 8 through 11. Who wants Job 38, 8 through 11?
I can read that.
All right, Trisha, and Job 7:12.
38, 8 through 11.
Yeah, hold on a second, Trisha. Who's got 8? Who's got 7:12? Job chapter 7, verse 12. Someone's going to read it. You don't have to have it yet. You just have to tell me you're going to find it. Okay, Pop, you got that one. And Job 9:8. Who wants that one? Job 9:8. Okay, Lori, I think I saw that. Oh, sorry, Josh, you were too late. You were in the top left corner and I didn't see you. Okay. So Job, let's do the first one, Trisha.
Okay.
Job
Who
38.
kept the sea inside its boundaries as it burst from the womb, and as I clothed it with clouds and wrapped it in thick darkness? For I locked it behind barred gates, limiting its shores. I said, this far and no farther will you come. Here your proud ways must stop.
Okay, so that's the same story, right?
Yeah.
He's putting bars on it. You shut up the sea behind doors, right? You don't okay, don't go any further than this. None of this tsunami stuff. Just stay sea. Stay a sea creature. All right. Job 7:12. This is Job speaking. He's asking God this question. It's a rhetorical question, of course, but what is it?
Am I the sea or the sea monster that you do set a guard over me?
Right. Okay, so he's just saying, I'm not a sea monster, am I? You're like, why are you being like this to me, God? Because we all know that you keep guard over the sea monster, right? You keep the sea back. We get that, but why are you keeping me back? All right, Job 9:8.
Who alone stretched out the heavens and trampled the waves of the sea, or trampled the back of the sea dragon?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So he's trampling on the sea. Okay, or the sea dragon. He's stepping on the monster. Psalm 77. I'm going to run out of time. Let me read it real quick. Psalm 77, 16 through 19. The waters saw you, O God. The waters saw you and writhed. The very depths were convulsed. The clouds poured down water. The skies resounded with thunder. Your arrows flashed back and forth. Your thunder was heard in the whirlwind. Your lightning lit up the world. The earth trembled and quaked. Your path led through the sea, your way through the mighty waters, though your footprints were not seen. Okay, so again, probably a Rahab story, right? An Egypt story. Okay, that their footprints weren't seen, but he's conquering the sea again. Isaiah 51, awake, awake, arm of the Lord. Clothe yourself with strength. Awake as in the days gone by, as in the generations of old. Was it not you who cut Rahab to pieces, who pierced that monster through? Okay, so again, the Egypt myth. Okay, so you've seen, what do we do? Like just 15 different verses that deal with this. These are chaos monsters, death monsters. Okay, and God is constantly doing battle with them. So now jump back to Book of Mark, which I started all of this stuff with. Okay, which is where my New Testament scholar friend comes in, but he's just listening to make sure I don't mess it up. So Mark is trying to tell you about Jesus, the Son of God, right? That he's Christ the King, he's the Son of God, and he's trying to say that he's a representative for Israel, which is what kings are, right? Kings are they're in between God and man. Okay, so they represent God to man, and they represent man to God. So they're kind of in that middle realm here. Okay, and so he's supposed to be a representative of Israel. He's a new Israel of one, not lots of others, but he's the beginning of a new relationship, of a new covenant, of this one here, right? Where he's going to be crowned king. That's what Mark is trying to get to. That's what all of the authors of the Gospels care about, right? This guy is going to be crowned king over the world. That is so huge. Okay, but more than king, there are some cool little influences here. A lot of people will say that I think like the New Testament or Jesus doesn't clearly say who he is. And I agree, it's not clearly who he says he is, but I think there's enough hints in the Gospels to convince me that at least the authors, Mark, Matthew, Luke, John, are trying to get you to see something different about Jesus than just a great prophet. Even I would say different than just a great king or great priest. They're going this step further. So again, he's Israel, right? He starts his journey out in the wilderness. That's pretty common. He chooses 12. Then he starts defeating things, right? Drives out an evil spirit, heals lots of people, a leper, a paralytic, another demon-possessed man is exorcised. This is all in the first 3 chapters of the book of Mark, okay? Or maybe the first 4 chapters. A dead person is raised from the dead. If you're looking through it, you can see whether I'm right or wrong, but it's basically in this kind of order. He's binding the strong man. These are the kinds of things he's doing. Okay, the strong man, okay, the chaos monster, he's binding him. Mark's trying to tell you that this new priest, this new kingdom of priests, Israel, Jesus, this one here, has the new power. Okay, he is the representative for them. He's going to succeed where Israel's failed throughout the whole Old Testament story. Keeps going down, we keep trying again, going down, recreation, keeps recreating. He's going to be the model of faith, the model of power, and how he's going to show this is that he too is going to beat up on the forces of chaos. Okay, so if you read this as just he's a cool miracle worker, that he casts out demons, right? That he raises the dead, that he casts out disease, right? Disease is just what happens when demons attack. Okay, that's how that was understood back then, that these demons are infiltrating, that they, something that's happened like that. So, and then he's going to get to, in Mark chapter 4, that super cool passage that everybody likes to talk about, right? Where I think he's starting to make super clear what's going on. Although he's not going to make it really clear to chapter 8. And even then, we're going to have another 8 more chapters of, right? Until we Of course, Mark 16 is probably not original, but you get the idea. 8 and 8, it's basically split up in the middle. So
when the disciples said, "Who is this man that even the wind and the waves obey?" They would know about these chaos monsters, and they're like, this, yeah. So it's all coming together. Starting
Thanks,
to come
John.
together.
Thanks. You just killed all my whole just on this climax up to this moment, and you just
I
killed it
wasn't
all.
trying. I thought you were done, dude. No, no,
Well,
dude.
I haven't told the story. I mean, we all know the story, right? You've been in the story before. You've
I'm
read
so
this.
excited about this. Sorry, keep going, dude.
That's okay. I don't care. All right. So he's standing in the boat. I'm sorry. He's asleep in the boat. Remember this, right? Not bothered at all. And you know how the way it works, right? When the monster comes, you call for your hero. Call Marduk. You call Baal. You call somebody to help you because the monster is creeping up over the edge of the boat and pulling you down. Help, help. So what do? They go down into the bottom of the boat. They wake him up. He's on a cushion. I'm just making stuff up here, but I remember being on a cushion, right? He's sleeping. And they wake him up and they say, Master, Master, don't you care if we die, right? If Moat kills us, if death pulls us down. And I can just see Jesus like, right? Because what's he going to say? You have little faith. Because at this point, they've been following him around. They're supposed to understand who he is. Or at least that's what Mark is trying to do. Like, who is he really? They're never going to quite figure it out. In fact, I think, is it Mark? Only Rob will remember this probably. But is Mark the one who says, the only one who actually figures it out is the centurion at the end, the Roman soldier?
Mark 15.
Mark 15. Thanks. I knew it. I knew he'd listening close enough to hear at least that part that I mentioned it. Yeah, so they're trying to understand who is this guy, right? And well, remember, Mark is trying to make this mystery go until you get all the way to Mark 15, and it's a Gentile that figures it out. But they're supposed to figure it out even as early as this, when he's casting out demons, but when he does this, they're starting to get a little bit, right? They keep getting these little tiny glimpses, like when Jesus heals the man, but only partially. So we can see, but he sees like trees walking around. It's like, it's not that Jesus failed when he did the healing there. This is a metaphor of they don't quite see it. They're getting there. You need a little bit more. So here he is. He stands up in the boat. You have little faith. They should have gotten it. They should have defeated the monster themselves. He's standing up there and it says, peace be still, right? He stands up there and he says, peace be still. And it's a great little Bible story for children because Jesus just calms the water. Stop it, water. But there's so much more going on here because that verse in the Greek, right? It's going to use the same word there to reference this word in the Hebrew. So if you go back and you read the Greek version of all of those verses where it says Ga'ar, rebukes, that's the word he uses here.
Now that preaches well, baby. That's good right
there.
there.
Oh, baby, it does, yeah. Right? So he Ga'ar, right? The fire brings the smoke is coming out of his mouth. He's like fire-breathing dragon. He rebukes the sea. The only way I would do it is if I was standing up in a pulpit, I would just yell, shut up, right? Or enough, like I'm the king. And you just see the sea, right? Represented Tehom, Yam, Leviathan, and the sea looks up. I can just imagine the sea looking up and seeing Jesus and saying, holy crap, we had no idea you were in the boat. We're really sorry. And just, right, just immediate silence. Everything's just quiet. Because that's what happens when God comes near, right? And the next thing that they say is, who is this that even the winds and the waves obey him? Right? That the sea can be rebuked by this man. Right? It says they feared him, by the way. They feared the storm and then they feared him. Because they get the power that's sitting in the boat with them right now. And I think it's a little glimpse, Mark saying, hey, look, Yahweh. Right? It's not clear, it's not obvious, but you know, he's going to do it again, right? The same story is going to happen in a few chapters later. Is it in Mark? Yeah, it's in Mark. I'm like, again, Rob will tell me. But where he starts walking on the water towards them. I've got this one here. It's chapter 6. Yeah. So look at chapter 6. When evening came, the boat was in the middle of the lake. What verse is this?
47.
Thank you. Good man. Chapter 6, 47. When evening came, the boat was in the middle of the lake, and he was alone on land. He saw the disciples straining at the oars because the wind was against them. About the fourth watch of the night, he went out to them, walking on the lake. He was about to pass by them, but when they saw him walking on the lake, they thought he was a ghost. they cried out because they all saw him and were terrified. Remember ghosts, Raphaim, ghosts or giants, the dead. They saw him and they were terrified. Again, they feared. Immediately spoke up and said, "Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid." He climbed into the boat with them. The wind died down. They were amazed. They had not understood the load. Their hearts were hardened when they did all this. So right before the story, we see Jesus, and he's separated himself. He's going to go spend some time in prayer. He often does this because the disciples don't get it. He needs, like, just get me back into the same, right? These disciples. And that's Mark's big point. They're strained at the oars, or the word is tormented, right? They're strained. They're tormented by the sea. And by the way, the same word that is used of demons that tormented people. So the sea is tormenting, and the demons are tormenting. And Jesus comes walking on the sea. So we know what Mark's doing immediately because we're following this train of thought, right? But it's so cool because even those words, like, he meant to pass them by, right? What does that mean? Was he on a stroll? Was he gonna just walk by him and then they were like, it's a ghost? And he's like, oh, hey guys, like, what's happening to this passing them by? And I think that what's happening here is Jesus is revealing himself. I think that's what Mark wants us to see. This is the same kinds of language, same thing that happens when Moses asks to see God. And it says that God passed him by, right? He showed some of himself. Put his hand on the cleft of the rock, and so his glory couldn't totally be seen because that would destroy him, but showed him something. Does the same thing maybe kind of for Elijah on Mount Horeb. Still small voice. We just see a glimpse of God, not in all the power, but in the just walking by, this passing them by kind of idea. And you can read John Meyer on that. He's got this great little piece on that. But he's passing them by. He's trying to show them who he really is. This is Yahweh that they knew from Isaiah chapter 43, verse 16, right? He made his path through the sea. This is what the Lord says, he who made a way through the sea, a path through the mighty waters. It's the Yahweh that they should have known if they knew their scripture in Isaiah 51, made a road in the depths of the sea so that the redeemed might cross over. He's passing by, he's treading on the very sea itself, Job 9:8. He alone stretches out the heavens and treads on the waves of the sea, the maker of the Bear and Orion and Pleiades and the constellations of the south. He performs wonders that cannot be fathomed, miracles that cannot be counted. When he passes me, I cannot see him. When he goes by, I cannot perceive him. Right? But there's some presence there. Why is he passing by? I think he wants to reassure them by showing his transcendent majesty as a divine being, as God himself, or as a stand-in for God himself, if that's what you need it to be. But either way, it's the ultimate red carpet. It's the ultimate making an entrance move, right? Like, here I am, as he's walking out there. Here I am, right? Like literal, I am here. He's making very clear who he is, or maybe not very clear, but he's making it there. His response to the fear, take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid, or don't be afraid, be brave. I am is another way of saying that. Again, this is just, that ego in me just is I am. It doesn't automatically mean the name of God, but maybe with the passing them by, maybe with the treading on the sea, all these things coming together, maybe that's what Mark's trying to do with it. Jesus is answering their question the only way that he probably has tons of ways to do it, but he's answering the same question that they asked him in chapter 4, right? Who is this? Or not that they asked him, but they asked themselves, who is this? That even the wind and the waves obey him. Who is it? He said, I am. That's his answer there. They don't understand what it means to silence these storms, defeats diseases, destroys demons, like doing all that stuff. But the author of Mark does. Like, he's gotten it, and he's trying to make it clear for us years later, trying to make us see all this stuff.
It's funny because in my Bible, I have this it says question right there. What is Jesus doing? It's old. I have no idea when I wrote that, but you just explained exactly what he's doing. Can you repeat?
I think that's what he's doing.
Oh yeah, of course. Can you repeat the Isaiah? The Isaiah? I got Job 9:8. What was the Isaiah one for this one?
Isaiah 43:16, path through the mighty water, and Isaiah 5:10, made a road in the depths of the sea so the redeemed might cross over.
Nice.
Obviously, that's an Exodus reference. And what's the last one? Yeah, I think those are the ones I gave you.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah. And so when we finally get to the end of the story, right? The book of Revelation, at least to the end of our canon as we understand it, and you got God coming again, the mighty warrior coming to defeat the monsters. You're going to see that he comes, on a white horse with a sword. We're not going to get into the battle imagery there about whether he's really having a war or not having a war. I'd probably say not, but whatever. Second Peter, you remember the conflagration happens there. Instead of a flood destroying, he talks about the fire destroying. Again, this recreation. It's not destroying, it's remaking, right? There's going to be a new creation. But Revelation 21 tells us the horrible story for those of you who are surfers, right? That there will be no more sea, which is just terrible. So there's no more hanging out of the ocean or anything like that. If you're a literalist, which you probably figured out none of us are. Well, not none of us. I am not a literalist. So you don't have to worry about that. There'll be a sea if you need there to be a sea. But the chaos monster has been defeated. Yay to the mountains. Anything I can do to support Travis's hatred of the beach and love of mountains, right? So, and that Revelation 12:3 passage, I'm just going to assume Rob agrees with me because I don't want to ask him what he really thinks, where it talks about the sea monster being defeated, right? This is just another reference to the same thing, but I don't think, do I have my, oh, I do. Revelation 12. Let's look at that in our last couple minutes. Revelation 12. I mean, I think I already introduced this, so I've already said what I think about it. Revelation 12, verse 3. Then another portent appeared in the heavens, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 diadems on his head. His tail swept down a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to deliver a child, so that he might devour her child as soon as it was born. And she gave birth to a son, a male child, who was to rule all the nations with the scepter of iron. That's not the reference that I meant to refer to, although that's a great one too. So this is a dragon too, right? So we have another dragon, but we don't get into that one. But this is, remember Revelation. Well, this is what happens whenever I go into Revelation. I feel like I need to over-explain it. Okay, so Rob, what's the passage about the serpent, Satan, the serpent of old, the great dragon?
That's verse 9.
It's verse 9. Thank you. There we go. The great dragon was thrown down, the ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. All right, so what is happening with this passage? Because we've got a dragon thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. So this is the hard part, because the first thing you're going to think of when you think about a serpent that's a deceiver is Genesis 3.
Genesis 3.
Right? Of course, Genesis 3. And that's fine. In fact, my guess is that's probably in there, right? Because remember, what we've been talking about through this whole monster myth thing is that there's an evolution of an understanding of who the devil is, of who the monster is. So, but there's a more ancient myth than the Genesis 3 story. Okay, the Isaiah story and the Canaanite Apsu and Ea and the Tiamat stories, these are all 7-headed monsters that are meant to take away order in the world. Okay, they're meant to take you away from the truth. So this is what they do. This is their norm. They're chaos monsters. I think what's happening in Revelation 12 is that the author here has combined this great Isaiah dragon, dragon and serpent, two different words there, and calls them devil and Satan, which has now been combined. Devil and Satan have now become the same thing. He's taking hold of this chaos monster, and he's calling this Satan now. And yes, he's a deceiver. So I mean, it's just I before E except after C. He is grabbing hold of two stories, putting them together, and evolving the myth further. Just like he does when he talks about the cherubim, the seraphim, right, where they have four faces and they look very different than they did in the Ezekiel story. Remember when we talked about the cherubim and seraphim there? They look kind of the same, but they're different. They've morphed further. They've evolved, which of course they can. So this idea is evolving into these monsters have now taken on this form that we'll understand as the devil and Satan from here on.
I'm thinking Numbers 21, 2. I mean, this is the seraphim, the flying serpent. So, I'm just going there too. As far as this, well, let me ask. Like, what do we have? 3 minutes, Rob. What do you think about this? This combination of
Actually, I wouldn't mind knowing that too.
Dragon and serpent.
He doesn't know what to think. He thinks
this is Jason's class. This is Jason's class. Leave me out of
it. that means he might disagree with me, and he'll text me later. But that's cool. I mean, Rob's got a lot to learn about the ancient Near East.
Well, I have a cross-reference Bible, and I love that the cross references for Mark 6 and 9. None of them are in my fancy New American Standard cross reference. Like none of that, which I love because it's we're connecting things that are meant to be connected for people who are biblical scholars. It's not, you're not going to get this meat in your just original like cross reference. So you're not going to get this.
Although yes, you're right. Although I don't want to pretend that only like biblical scholars can see this. I think the author was writing for their time. I think they would have seen these things. Like they would know this mythology in the back of their, it's in the air for them. And they live this stuff. They love it. Okay. And maybe they don't love it. I have no idea, but it's in the air. Like it's just everywhere. So they would hear this and go, I know what's happening. Now, granted, they're stuck in their Greco-Roman period as well with their Hebrew understanding. So they have a particular understanding of the devil and Satan that had been going on at that point. I mean, I don't know when Revelation was written, but let's just say for the last 100 years, they've had a pretty decent understanding of who the devil and Satan was. Okay, because this is that time period, right? This apocalyptic literature, Second Temple literature. You're going to see this in Enoch. You're going to see this in Jubilees. You're going to see it in even Wisdom of Solomon. You're going to see some of these like Satan, devil kinds of things that are going to come up. So they would have already, like you, when I say the devil, you know what we're talking about. But if we went back 2,500 years, they wouldn't know what you're talking about because they had a different understanding of who the bad guy was. There was no Satan.
I think that's what's so cool about that First Nations version that I've talked about that you're not a big fan of. Is because like it puts it in that context as a guy, like the whole like it's in the air, like it puts it in the air in a way that I can appreciate. It'd be cool if somebody did like a modern version of the Bible of the in the air stuff that's like change the stories but so they have the same meaning, but so it's relevant now, which is, I mean, that's what we're all supposed to do, right? But I mean, that's kind of what that First Nations version does. FYI, I'll plug it again for you. So
I don't dislike it. I just like, yeah. Anyway, it's good. It does what it needs to do. I was reading the Cotton Patch version the other day, so yeah. I mean, it does what it needs to do. If you're a South Carolinian, you need to read the Cotton Patch version. Apparently, speaks in Old South. All right. Any last minute comments? It's 9:16. I know I talked a lot, but I had to finish the narrative, right? Like you had to see how Mark connected to all of this. Otherwise, if we went, 15 minutes next week, it wouldn't have worked. So hopefully it all came together for you and new synapses are firing as you're making new connections. All
I'm
right.
still trying to figure out who Satan is.
Who's Satan? Peter's Satan. And sometimes you are.
I know. Yep.
That is, if you oppose God, if you're bringing chaos to the world, defeating his purposes or trying to, then you become Satan. Not fighting for humility, justice, and peace from the Sermon on the Mount, become Satan for a little bit. All right. Go in peace or hang out with us. Good to have Dr. Dalrymple on. Even if he didn't help us, that was probably kind of him not to. I never would have finished if he had